The way how SGX Nifty is trading at this point in time, it's surpassed the 10,900 levels. SGX Nifty looks like it's a firm start for our Indian markets. But moving on to a top story on the global front, US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross says the US and China are quote-unquote miles and miles from resolving trade issues, but believes that there is a fair chance that two countries will get a deal. Chinese Vice Premier Liu He will visit Washington next week to meet the US officials, and Wilbur Ross said that the two sides are unlikely to resolve all their disputes in the next week's talks. But he added, and I quote, "I think there's a fair chance that we do get to a deal." And Morgan Stanley CEO says that he's worried about the US government shutdown continuing and can have an extremely damaging effect on the US economy. Government said that at a human level, 8 lakh families affected by this, and this is not the way the US should be working. The shutdown is in its 34th day as the Trump administration and Democratic leadership remain in a stalemate over the funding for US-Mexico border wall. He also adds that he truly hopes the leadership of both sides come to some way of resolving what seems to be a relatively straightforward problem.
In keeping it with the United States, reports are suggesting that the government is concerned about India's revised e-commerce regulations. The government said that the policy will hinder the Indian investment plans of Amazon and Walmart. Remember, India's e-commerce investment rules kicked in from the 1st of Feb and essentially ban companies from selling products via firms in which they have an equity interest, and also bar them from making deals with sellers to sell exclusively on their platforms. The US government cited good relations between the two countries and stressed that American companies should be given concessions in the larger interest of bilateral trade. India, however, gave a non-committal response.
And the European Central Bank pledges to keep interest rates at record lows amid rising growth concerns. ECB President Mario Draghi added that the Eurozone's economic risks have moved to the downside, while he stuck to the policy language that leaves room for hike later in the year. Economists believe that lower rates are here to stay for a much longer period.
In corporate news, scandal hits Carlos Ghost's as Renault boss. The French government, Renault's biggest shareholder, says that the board has been asked to name outgoing Michelin boss Jean-Dominique Senard as chairman and Carlos's deputy Thierry Bolloré as chief executive. Senard, currently the CEO of tire giant Michelin, will represent Renault in its alliance with Japanese car makers Nissan and Mitsubishi. Meanwhile, Bolloré has been running the company in the wake of Carlos's sensational arrest in November. And talking about, of course, Carlos's resignation, French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said, and I quote, "The key issue is not so much the leadership of Renault, but who is going to lead, manage and develop the alliance, and for that, you need someone who's going to devote all his time and energy to restore dialogue between the manufacturers," unquote.
And moving to the crude space, OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo has said that the OPEC and its allies do not rule out taking further action at their next meeting in April should oil inventories build up in the first quarter. That's the words coming from OPEC Secretary General.